Welcome to Collector's Corner, the premier digital art platform.
We help collectors gain and maintain their edge, all while appreciating beautiful art.
Let's jump in. Hello, friends. This is P. Just a little bit of a quick intro to this episode. I, of course, was about to record the biggest episode that we've had so far with William Mapan, my favorite artist, and my Wi-Fi died literally 5 minutes before. William's super busy, so we made it work using the internet off of my phone, tethered, but it wasn't so great. So at the beginning, the video quality is less than ideal when we're showing each of our faces, but once we go onto the screen, it all works out. So apologize for that, but still wanted to get this episode out because William goes deep on dragons, which is an amazing collection and our first deep dive on an fxhash collection. So really excited for it. Think you'll enjoy it, and pardon some of the video quality there. Thanks. Hope you enjoy it. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Into the Collection. My name is P. You may know me online as Aston Cloud. I'm joined with my co-host, Jared. You may know online as Jared_pause. And super excited, most excited I've ever been, because we have my favorite artist, Mr. William Mapan, on with us. And we're going to do a deep dive into dragons, which is also the first fxhash collection that we've jumped into. But before getting into all of that, let's talk to our guest, William. How are you today?
Good. I'm super excited to talk about this. And yeah, I just finished another series, 1935, which take me a lot of energy. So now that this is done, I can think and start to thinking into something else. So my mind is free of this, so I can focus on something else.
Yeah, and 1935 was spectacular. That was the Bright Moments drop in Mexico City. I collected one, huge fan, and we're excited to see what you go to next. Before getting to your questions, Jared, how are you? How are you doing, my friend?
I am well rested. As they say in Paris, I was just on holiday for the greater part of last week, so super refreshed. My wife spoiled me, and we got some time on the beach. So trying to hit the ground running, my man.
And happy belated birthday. It was the big 40th, right?
Yeah, I ticked over into a new decade officially.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Yeah, amazing. So we're going to jump right in because William's super busy. And you know me, I'll talk forever, especially with someone as interesting as him. But we want to be respectful of your time. I wanted to ask, you're putting out so much interesting work these days. It seems like you're really pushing the boundaries of textures and digitally creating textures. What are you interested in these days in terms of pushing your craft, and where do you want to take it in the next, however far you have line of sight, 6 months, year?
It's really a interesting question, art question, but I don't really know. I just know that I'm trying to find some ways to combine my analog practice and digital coding practice into making something new. And I don't really know what it is, but I'm just trying to figure it out basically and pushing as far as I can. I just like, practicing a lot, like painting and drawing as well. So when my wrist is is soaring, basically I just try, okay, I'm gonna do just some coding and try to basically integrate what I understand and what I learned from my analog practice into my coding practice. But I don't really know what I'm looking for. I'm just trying to convey emotions. Like I'm trying to connect with my practice through coding, because first of all, it just like talks to me, and this is the way I connect with art, through pieces that I see and can touch. And now I wonder how I can trigger those emotions and this connection through a screen, basically. So it's hard to articulate, but I don't really know. I'm just looking for something that is in the middle. I don't know what it is, but I'm trying to look for it. Yeah.
I have to say it because P and I both come from an engineering background. So it's actually, I think, very refreshing to hear your response, because you're allowing yourself the bandwidth to experiment and then really start to, at least my interpretation of it is, run down whatever particular rabbit hole you want to and whatever is fruitful and start to scratch an itch that you have. So I actually really love that response. So thank you for that, because it keeps, as a collector, it keeps us all on the edge of our seats. And at least for me, it's gonna make me want to follow your Twitter even closer to see what sort of beautiful outputs are coming, because you're doing some tremendous work between palettes and textures, as Pete said. So
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, yeah, I would say like colors is like a central piece of my work. Like I try to find, because color is like language basically, like shapes. I try to see what the color can do, like the play between colors, shapes, contrast, composition, all those aspects of art. How can I play with them, experiment, like distort them sometimes, maybe sometimes focus on something smaller. Yeah, that's what is beautiful with generative art. Like you don't have to find solutions to things like with some software engineering. Just like experimenting is actually the thing to do. It's not about finding solutions. Like I've been like a software engineer, creative developer for like 10 years. So it was mostly about finding solutions to problems. And with art is that's why I continue to practice art every day on the side of my day job. Is just to escape that reality and yeah, make stuff with your own personality. Yeah.
So as you're experimenting these days, one of the things that P and I have loved about anti-cyclones was the palettes. I think they were just absolutely next level. I think that with dragons, for me, it's about texture and fluidity. There's just something magical, not to steal one of your traits names, about the flow of every piece. Is there something, I'll call it, that is got you excited about art or the space in particular these days?
These days, I'm mostly interested in when like generative art gets out of our little screen, like installation, like what Bartman is doing, for example, or maybe what Dmitry Sharniak is doing with photography. So all those mix, like even Tyler, painting his QL, like all these things where generative art is just a component of something and not necessarily the full picture. Like I like to combine stuff, and I think generative art is a great medium to combine different disciplines.
That's awesome. I love that. And I love what you were saying earlier about you didn't say it quite in these words, but the journey is the reward, right? The path of discovery and
Yeah,
experimenting and finding stuff.
definitely. Yeah,
And to be honest, it's been a little bit like that for us with this podcast. We're refining it. And we were talking before. I'm now having Wi-Fi issues. I'm like, okay, now I need to like figure out how to experiment and, and make sure these problems don't come up again. One thing that seems to be definitely different, we're hearing from artists and we're experiencing ourselves, is the connection between the artists and the collectors in Web3 is different than it was very
yeah.
much so before. Love to hear your any thoughts you have on that, and maybe how are you feeling about that? Where are you experimenting in that way as well? You're here talking to us, which is amazing. For us, you're this amazing talent, and to be speaking to us is first. We're very gracious, but yeah, how are you experiencing this new world?
It's a lot of pressure, a lot of things to handle, but because when you're an artist, all this media, all those social network is you're not only an artist, you're also like a marketer, a writer. You have so many jobs to do, and it can be overwhelming. Like I am definitely overwhelmed by all this, so it's really hard for me to be there all the time. But I try to, and yeah, every time I try to connect, like go through my DMs and stuff like that, and it's very good to connect with people about the things you do. And I think that's what like all the whole NFT and Web3 art brought, that you can actually talk to living artists about their stuff. There's no in the middle like barrier. Like you can just talk to people because this is internet. Internet is to talk to people, like to connect with people. And I think having this medium as internet, is a good bridge with art. Like internet connects to people and art connects to people. So those two things makes a good mix. And I think, yeah, like you say, like being able to talk to other artists, other collectors is, I think, we are lucky to be in these times, because for a long time it wasn't like that. It was to have to be able to talk to someone, to an artist you want to, it will be quite a journey. But now it's getting easier and easier. So definitely the humanness is, I think, is more present, even if it's all digital. We are more human because we connect more, basically.
Yeah, and
So yeah,
it's it, I'm glad you were I appreciate that response, being open and vulnerable about it. And it's an interesting space because we are collectors and we are also creators. We're not artists, but what we are creating is this content and this podcast. And I think for us, as we've spoken with different artists and sort of kind of analyze different collections, what we've realized is that this is a 24/7 nonstop. Like you can go crazy if you do
yeah,
you can't even do everything. And I just want you to know from our standpoint as collectors, if I send you a DM and you don't respond for a week or a month or not at all, it's no bad feelings. It's, you're busy, you have your job, you have your family, you have life outside of those things also, and you're just another human being. So hopefully that can take some of the pressure off. And I have to respond. And I think as long as you're being true to yourself, some artists are super responsive. They want to be in Discord all day, but that's what they like. Some of them don't step in for months. That's okay. I think us as collectors, we respect that. So just yeah, if that helps at all, I don't want you to
yeah.
feel any pressure.
Appreciate. Because yeah, sometimes I feel like maybe I'm not doing enough, but it's just that I don't want to, just that I can't. Like life outside is more demanding for me, so I can't spend all my time on internet basically. But yeah, I just try as much as possible to connect with people when I have time. So
You're doing
and
an
it's really
awesome job, and even the fact that you're here today to share and do a deeper dive into one of your projects and really facilitate our selfish need to scratch the itch of what is dragons. It's more than generous, and I have to say, on behalf of P and I, we're truly grateful. So thank you.
Yeah, and you're a big star. So I'm wearing my squiggle beanie here that I got from Marfa. I was at Marfa. I was in Mexico City for the Bright Moments. Like everyone's so excited for you as the artist. But I wanted to ask one more question before we jump into dragons. Is how about you as the collector? I mean, I think almost everybody in this space is a collector. Some are artists, some are doing other things, but everyone's collecting. What are you collecting art? And if so, what's exciting for you, like coming up? Like if what's the alpha, William? Do you have any alpha for people?
not really. I started to collect Tezos initially, and it's still my main source of collection, mainly because it's an ecosystem that I understand. Like before NFT, I was really like unaware of all this crypto stuff. And when NFT came along, I was totally lost. And hopefully a friend of mine, Matt Delorier, helped me a lot getting on board. So like, okay, now I have my Tezos wallet. I can collect, I can buy stuff. I'm like, okay, I understand this ecosystem. And then Ethereum came to me, like, this is a bit like, sounds like dangerous. You have all this security vibe to have on Ethereum, and I don't fully understand it. So I tend to not collect that much on Ethereum because just mostly that I don't interact mostly with this blockchain, except for minting with our blocks mainly. But yeah, on fxhash and objectivity, yeah, I collect a bunch when I have time, and mainly I collect friends and when I see something outstanding on Twitter, but because I'm not that much on Twitter, so I don't collect much stuff. But when I do, it's because oh yeah, I saw something on Twitter like everyone is talking about, and I'm checking it. And sometimes I don't. I feel like yeah, it doesn't talk to me, but sometimes it does, and yeah, I just trigger the button and buy it.
What's a project that caught your eye most recently, just out of curiosity on fxhash?
So what was the last one on fxhash? Let me check
Not to put
my.
you on the spot. Sorry about that.
Like
I
the
was
last
going to
one
ask the exact same question.
the last one I collected was Gamalt. Gamalt, yeah, from Kronkarta. It's like a soft, it's a sensible product. I feel like it's about like watercolor texture and really simple shapes like circles. And I was into this minimalist, like my life was really busy at that time when I collected it. And this was so simple, so gentle, so sensible, and so minimalistic. I was like, this is exactly what I need now. And I collected a bunch, like, I don't know, maybe six, five, yeah. But yeah, this one was really very good. And recently I saw this thing that everyone is talking about. I don't remember how it is called. I didn't collect it yet, but I intend to. Let me see if I can, what's the name of this again? Punk, Punk Welt, something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Welt. Yeah, this one is very
I
good as
sense
well.
that.
I'm just I didn't find one yet that I want to collect. I don't want to collect because there is a hype or anything, so I'm gonna rush into collecting anything. I'm just waiting for the right output to be on sale and I'll be like, okay, this one is for me, and I'll collect. But
That
I
one's
really like that.
in the trending these days by Eric Swan. It's a very beautiful output with the colors and the angularity of the pieces. So awesome.
Very true. As well, I really liked also, like recently, I really liked, I think my favorite one, like for the last 3 months, is Take Wing from Melissa Weirach. I don't know
We
if
just
I
call her
pronounced
Melissa W.
Melissa W. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, Melissa, if I scratch your name. But yeah, like Take Wing is really my stuff. Like, yeah, I just like this series a lot.
Fantastic. Well, Phil, thank you for sharing that. Those are gonna moon as soon as this airs. But no, those are all fantastic collections that we've seen. Really beautiful ones. I actually have a Take Wing. I haven't gotten a Punk Welt yet. Same thing. I'm looking for the one that speaks to me. So I'll also look. I'll make sure I'll tell you before so I don't accidentally buy yours. Wonderful. Okay, so let's jump into dragons. Again, I think I said this at the top. We're really excited because we have not yet done a deep dive onto fxhash collections. So this is the first one, and we think that there's something really special and interesting happening on fxhash, and with the experimentation and all the openness. And, if we have time afterwards, we can talk about that too. But I'm going to share my screen now for people listening on audio, and so I don't know if you had a chance to look ahead of time, William, but we create these Deca galleries for these deep dives, and we really try to, in this Web3 generative art world, what's so interesting is that we are have these different metadata and these traits that are coming into the collections, and so it's really cool to see how does this different trait translate into the visual output, and to understand how you are constructing the piece as well. So we laid it out here, and we have some questions for you. And since you are the master, you created this, we tried to figure out what the different translate into, but of course we need your help. So just a tiny bit of backstory for the people listening. The collection is called Dragons by William Mapan. It's widely considered, one of the best, if not the best, on fxhash. And there's, I don't even know how many thousands of collections on there. So that's not a small feat. This was released on December 7th, 2021. And yeah, I think we can just dive in. It's 512 pieces. Currently, the floor price is about 6,000 US dollars. It's about 6,000 Tezos. It launched at 25 Tezos. So it's done extremely well. And the listeners, the viewers, you'll see why. And so please check this out on YouTube if you're listening, because we're going to go through a lot of these things. And yeah, we can go ahead and dive into it. And I guess before we go into, well, I'll show some of the artwork here on the screen, but I wanted to ask you, William, what did this art build on any techniques, or were you experimenting with any new techniques? Like, how did this sort of manifest from you?
Yeah, it's funny because like this series, I started it way before fxhash came in, so it wasn't supposed to be released as it is now. Like it was supposed to be something pre-generated and maybe put as a collection on whatever website like Objecati. But then fxhash says, "Hey, I'm here out of the blue, like in November or something like that." I'm like, okay, maybe I can actually make it a generative token. So at that time, I was working a lot with texture. Like as I was saying, I like analog practice. So I just bought a bunch of paper, scan them, use them in my code, and I really wanted to make some flows, like you said before. Like how can I make something really smooth? Because I don't know what, like humans have a really strong connection with curves and lines and how they flow together along the screen or piece or canvas, something like that. Much more than geometric. The geometric you feel really, like, at least I do, very like condensed and it's way more stressing when we have sharp geometries. And it's more about composition, how it plays together. Like geometry for me is more playful, and like curves and flows is more about emotions. So I wanted to experiment first with this. Um, and yeah, so I wanted to basically, how can I create little creatures made of like, like little Pokemons, basically, that can convey personality. Like they all have their personality, how, like if they could speak, what there be their language, either language by color palette, maybe they all talk the same language. I don't know. To be a, and I really wanted to create a small world of Pokemon, basically, yeah, small creatures that are each like very different, but at the same time very similar. So that's what Dragon is about.
I think you did a phenomenal job in that sense. Honestly, every time I look at one of these pieces, I feel as though we're looking at the scales of a dragon, like ruffling through the wind as it flies. Somewhat in a magical sense. So I think you definitely nailed it.
Yeah, and just like a small aparté, I really like the movie Dragons. Actually, I think I never said that, but yeah, like How to Train Your Dragon. This like animated movie from Disney, maybe
Maybe
Pixar.
Pixar. Yeah.
Pixar, yeah, yeah. I love this one, and yeah, it's like everything keeps like when I made Dragon, everything kept coming at me like dragons. Like I started, experimenting with scales, and at some point I was like, okay, this reminds me some scales of dragon. I was like, okay, I'm gonna dig into this like as much as I can, and this is what came out.
That's awesome. I just Googled it. It looks like it's DreamWorks because we all just default to Disney and Pixar, which is funny because that was William and I have some little kids, so that's what I default to also. Um, the first category I'd like to dig into is up on screen, and it's age. Do you mind shedding some light? Because I am not an expert by any stretch in this particular category about how this trait affects some of the outputs.
Yeah, basically, actually the age is how like vivid and excited a dragon is. Like the more color, and basically it translates with the gray. When humans or maybe some like sometimes dogs or other creatures, animals get more older, they like the hair becomes grayer. That's what I wanted to translate. So when someone is really young, there is no gray hair basically, and the more it ages, the more gray it appears. That's what I wanted to make, something a little notion of time, of age, and yeah, and basically the older dragon is, the wiser it is, because there is this thing with Chinese, culture where the older you get, the wiser you are, and I wanted to translate a bit that feeling, like being gray and old isn't bad, it's actually better.
That's super playful. It sounds so. Once you said it, I was like, oh my god! I had my palm to my head. It's actually really, once you see it on screen here as P scrolling, it becomes very evident. And it's, to be honest, from my perspective, it adds a different dynamic to the art in a very pleasant way. Seeing that it just crossed my halfway point in life to my 40s, so it's a really intriguing to see it on screen. That's very insightful.
Yeah, I really like that, William. And actually, for you, Jared, I'll tell you both something interesting. So I was training to be a dermatologist, William. I don't know if you knew this before I fell in love with like Web3 and generative art, and now I'm full time in generative art. But when I was going through my interviews in different programs, training programs, I met somebody who discovered why our hair turns gray, and it turns out it's a sign of your immune system maturing, and it's just
Mm,
sort of a side effect that it also influences the DNA, the proteins that bring color to your hair. So yeah, so that it's, I was trying to
nice.
figure this one out. I'm glad I didn't guess because I was completely wrong. And for the people listening and not on screen, we're showing four dragons. These are on the vegetably type, which is an awesome palette color scheme here. And we have numbers 444, number 32, which is young, number 155, and number 269. And on the age trait, William, I noticed that all of the ones that were age 16 were of the ones that turned gold. The status turned gold. I was curious about that, why you chose that number for the ones that became gold.
Yeah, there is all this culture of afterlife, and I wanted, like, I'm not, I don't know if I believe in afterlife or not, but with this series, I wanted to play with this concept basically, and yeah, like gold is like, you're not, once you're dead, you're not forgotten. I could have made something like you turn all black or you turn all gray if you're like done, but I wanted to make something like, no, if you made it to that point in life, you're just glowing, and you passed the threshold where you're kind of a legend now. You're all in all memories and shining in memories, something like that. And yeah, I didn't want to have the older being the forgotten, basically.
I have to say, the more and more we engage with artists, and I appreciate this perspective. I'm just gonna take a little digress. The amount of thought that goes into these projects is absolutely mind blowing, and I love these interviews because little tidbits like that start to come out where just looking at the art, it can make you feel something. It can make you feel connected, but even just hearing that perspective allows me to have a greater appreciation for what you're doing, because the amount of thought and the depth and breadth of thought that goes into these is absolutely incredible. And we're only on the first trait, so I'll save all of my enthusiasm as we go. But thank you.
Yeah, and Jared, one thing I want to just take a step back, William, and we, for the people listening, we typically talk about why did we choose this collection. So, and we have a framework actually. We're both engineers as well, so we break it down. So, the first thing is the aesthetics. Like, this is just so beautiful. So many people that I talk to are just obsessed with this collection, and actually, I think it's growing more and more. And so, it checks the box on the aesthetics, and the breadth of the collection is amazing. I mean, we're about to go through all the traits, all the different types, which is sort of sometimes called palettes in other collections, but the color schemes. So the breadth is fantastic, yet everything feels really cohesive. And we also think about the artist. Like you are, like I said before, you're one of the best artists, if not, in my opinion, you're the best, because I love all your work. But
Thank you, man.
also, so willing to engage in building this community, which is huge as well. And the best collectors have this collection, and I just wanted to go through this, both our framework for our listeners and for you to know how we are collectors are thinking about this. Aesthetics for long form breadth. Who's the artist? Are they cool? Do they show up for the community? Not all the time, like you're saying, but just sometimes they seem interested in who's collecting the art. And then who are the other people buying it? And a lot of the influential people in the space are buying it. And the one thing we also think about is historic significance. And I think this collection really kind of blew up fxhash, and just really put some of this Tezos art on the map. I know it's a weird distinction, but before there was some bias, and now seriously, I have people with this as their favorite collection. They cannot stop. They're obsessed with it. And I was telling you before, one of my friends, we were on the phone, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm just going to buy one," and he bought. At that time, that was the highest sale. I think it was 6,500 Tez, and it's building more and more. So these dragons are really flying. Pun intended. Pun intended there.
Yeah, I think whatever the chain, the blockchain or the platform, I don't want to hold back. Basically, I just want to put my bet at the current time I am. So that was Dragon when I released it. It was the best I could do. But I mean, not necessarily the best I could do in terms of rendering, or it's must like when I really like to think my stories in terms of, like, as you say, like two components, like aesthetics and what I wanted to say. And that's why I think I take a long time before making a long form with a lot of editions, is because I try to connect those two components and make something that's really like that's something I'm proud of. And I have a lot of stuff on my computer that I won't release ever. Like I have a lot, but that could make something like 100 editions, but it looks good, but the concept is like, and it doesn't really reflects me. So I just let it down. But with Dragons, it was the first time when I was, okay, I succeeded to keep the concept until the end, and the aesthetics match what I wanted to say. So, and yeah, and fxhash was the platform right for me at that time. Like Tezos, I was already on Tezos, so why not try fxhash, who was like really new, and I really like to experiment with things. Like I'm not afraid to experiment. So like, yeah, maybe this platform is not a vlogs yet, but it's still worth a shot. And why not taking a risk?
I'm still amazed that every time, P mentioned this about a top sale, every time one sells, even at 15% royalties, your cut is still more than the original mint. I think it's just the power of art in general, and then also the power of the blockchain being able to record all of this. So just a moment to reflect, especially with royalties being at the limelight these days. To me, this is just the validation of, you put out this amazing art. It's had a deep resonance with people, and as the creator, you should see some of the fruits of that labor. It's absolutely brilliant in the process. And to go back to what you're saying, thank you for releasing it. And it's actually amazing to hear that, like, this project, or at least what I heard, is it not only captured your, I'll call it, your need for tinkering, but the outputs, the aesthetic, I'll call it high watermark that you've established. So if this is the amount of thought that you put into a project, and your baseline for releasing something, I have to say, I'm sounding like a fanboy, but I'm super excited, because not to put pressure on you, but it's amazing that your ability to capture art, aesthetics, and code all in one place. It's really, really awesome to see.
Yeah, thank you. I think it's definitely what I like to do, like using my coding skills to translate what I like to make with my hand, and but way faster, way I can explore way further as well. So yeah, it always ends up in a place I couldn't imagine, but still reflects what I wanted to say at the beginning and what with a good aesthetics. So this takes time, but it's always worth it, I think, to to take the time, sit down, maybe throw everything to the bin if it doesn't match, maybe keep it, but yeah, take the time to make stuff, take the time to say what you want to say. I think it's important for an artist to yeah to just say what you have to say in the way you see it, basically, because it's just a perspective, it's a point of view, like it's a point of view of me, of the artist, of in the artist. Like we could say the same thing and it will be represented in a millions way different. Like, so yeah, I think it's important to always have something to say when making something, even if you don't say it in the direct description or whatever, but creating with intent, I think, is important in art.
Absolutely. And I think that your emotion that you were trying to convey really comes across and people feel it in this collection. And I didn't say it earlier, but I love what you were saying about Pokemon because I think in this way, long form generative art with these traits really allows you to lean into that collectability aspect. And I was obsessed with Pokemon. I won't reveal too much. But like that first when we looked at age, so here on the screen, the vegetably palette that reminded me of like a Bulbasaur or some of these grass Pokemon,
Yeah.
right? And then now we can move on to atmosphere, which is the mud watery type, and I'm like, oh yeah, this is like a Squirtle or maybe one of those like mud and ground type Pokemon. So I'll stop being super nerdy about it, and maybe you can explain to us. So there's two options for atmosphere. There's hazy. So here on the screen, we have number 333 on the left and 454 on the right. And then there's also the dry atmosphere. And yeah, so, how does this one translate? How are you thinking about this and putting it into the art?
Like hazy is much more like it is a lot like an environmental like thing. I was much more thinking how where those dragons are flying and what is the particularity of air in this environment. So when it's dry, everything looks more sharp, basically. And when it's hazy, it's much more like foggy, because then the light is, how to say this, is diluted. Like the light is diluted into a lot of rays, so everything becomes blurry. And that's what I wanted to convey. Like, how can I make like a mysterious environment? Like, is it like blue sky, no fog, no rain, so you see clear, or is it something really muddy, foggy, like cloudy, and then you're not sure about what you're seeing? And this is what I wanted to, yeah, convey with this parameter.
Got it. That makes perfect sense. Yeah, you can really see the diffraction of that light here in these hazy options.
Yeah, diffraction was the word.
No, no, no. I was thinking of it too, and it just came to me. But yeah, it's beautiful. And for the people listening, there are only 79 that are hazy. Far more of them are dry. 432 that are the dry types, and it's beautiful. I really enjoy that element that is incorporated into this. And I think another one that has to do with the background. So the next one that we have up here is the environment category. So for the people listening, only listening, up on screen, we have number 80, which is a black and white environment.
Yeah.
And then we have number 158, which is colorful environment. And then 509, which is aurora. And most of them are black and white. There's 344 that are black and white, 134 are colorful background, and 33 are the aurora, which is just fantastic. I love that. Yeah, I mean, this is one that I could actually figure out, but I'm curious, what was the artistic intent here, or how are you thinking about these backgrounds?
this really has to do with, again, with where where is it flying? Where is the dragon is flying? Is it like on Earth, where you have different lands or grounds or seas or whatever? Is it into the void, like in space, or is it like in space but with like stars, like meteors? And this is basically the three parameters, the three options. Like black and white is fully void, like super abstract, and the colorful adds a bit of grounding the dragon somewhere that you could recognize if you have a bit of imagination. Maybe like the orange is something, like the mud or something very, I would say, like very muddy. And yeah, aura is really the magical ones, like like Pokemons. Like you have those rare Pokemon that appears in the sky, and you're like, oh my god, they're flying. Is it like is it a rainbow? What is it? And you're like, oh yeah, you can have distinctions, like slight distinctions, so you recognize it's a dragon, but at the same time you're like overwhelmed by the stars, those meteors, and you're like, oh, okay, and you start to have some kind of depth, and you don't know if it's going under or over, and yeah, it's like swimming between stars, basically between meteors and stars, and yeah, those ones are rares, basically, yeah.
Oh, it's beautiful. I didn't realize. So to some extent with the Aurora ones, the wings of the dragons, they're in between the background as
Yeah.
opposed to being in front of it. That's super cool. Yeah, these are very rare, only 33. I was lucky to find one recently. I'm so excited to have it. And thank you for building that in. That's such a cool, really, really interesting trait to build into this collection. Awesome. So I have so many questions for you, but I want to make sure we get through all these. So we're just gonna kind of go through the other traits and hear how you were thinking about them. Magical. I love this trait. I think I was able to figure this one out. So here we have it on the lackey type. Number 60 and number 101 have the magical trait, and then number 21 and 380 do not. Yeah, do you want to explain to folks what this one is and what you were hoping to express with it?
Yeah, magical is a bit like Aurora, but much more dragon dependent. So, like with Aurora, it's only like all the particles and all the atmosphere is like space related. So you have some, this nice palette with the purple and stuff like that. But with the Aurora, the magical type it's more about the dragons, like what what will be the colors, of the particles. So it's much more like something that's when the dragon flies, it unleashes sands, something like that. And yeah, how does it translate on the dragon? Basically, with particles when it flies. And yeah, the particles can change color and stuff like that. But it's really similar to Aurora, but it's dragon related. It's very local to dragons and not to the environment.
Got it. So it's more where the wings are, if you will, and not in the background where
Yeah.
you have the colors and the dots.
This is actually, it's subtle, but it's one of, if not my favorite trait in the collection, because it just, the little pops of the stars make for a really, really, in my opinion, different dynamic to each of the pieces, and I really, really like the effect that starry night has on the palettes. It's beautiful, subtle, but like it pops.
Yeah, it's very subtle. Yeah, I agree. I really like this one because I wanted to remove it at first, and then I was like, make it very subtle. And so yeah, it's not that obvious, but and it just adds more texture as well. But yeah, I agree. This one is really good.
It also adds to that whimsical nature of like if you envision the dragon flying, I always think of like the never ending story for like a dragon flying, and then you could really picture this dragon in a starry night. So it really adds to that visualization of flight, so to speak, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I agree, and I'm very glad you kept this trait in because I also think it's awesome. It's one of my favorite, and the good thing is it's about 50%. So 223 have this trait, whereas 288 do not. So I'm also glad you chose to make it not super rare because then a lot of people can enjoy it.
Yeah, exactly the idea. Yeah. Like I had already Aurora being super rare, so this one I wanted to have a lot of people to have it.
Yeah, absolutely. Like this, it's so nice. I love it so much. So yeah, and actually, William, while we're on here on the screen, I wanted to ask you. This is a question that came up that I don't think is really in the traits, but with the algorithm, how is it determined if so on screen number 60 on the left, how the dragon body, if you will, is covering almost the whole image and it's really going left to right, mostly horizontal. But then sometimes the dragons they're moving a little bit more diagonally. So this one number 101 is a little up and to the right.
Yeah.
How did you think about that in the algorithms? I don't think it's one of the traits. If it is, you can tell me, hey, we'll get to it. But if not, yeah, how was that randomized, I suppose, or how did you think of it?
Yes, it's not a trait, but I wanted to have multiple views of the dragons because when you look up to the sky and you see stuff like the cloud or anything, the star, like a planet, you always have a different view, whether you're in different part of the world or if the clouds are if there is any cloud or if the sky is clear. So I really wanted to have different views of the dragons. Maybe it's zoomed out, maybe it's zoomed in, so you can really appreciate different things. When it's zoomed in, you can appreciate just the scales of the dragons. When it's zoomed out, you can appreciate more of the flow and the general shapes. And sometimes, and I also wanted to make them sometimes to feel like there is multiple dragons in one dragon. And I think there is some like that. I don't remember which one, but I think some are zoomed out and you can guess that there is multiple dragons flying into the same one. And I couldn't have those feelings with a locked view. So I chose to have both.
This is super interesting. So then the ones that have more like kind of black background space is considered more zoomed out or with a
Yeah.
further out perspective. Okay. Really cool. Well, one thing, William, that we notice as collectors is even traits that are not in the metadata, we start kind of coalescing around them and trying to find them. So now that we know about this, I'm gonna be on the lookout for the zoomed out ones and maybe the multiple dragon traits.
Yeah, my preferred one are the zoomed out because it really translates. Or again, I don't know if I could find back this scene from Pokemon when I was a kid, but it's a scene really from maybe the first episode, maybe the second episode, where like the hero sees like a magical bird in the
Hmm.
sky, and he's like, "Oh my God, what is it?" And sees a really zoomed out view, and it just looks so magical. And yeah, those dragons zoomed out reminds me. So definitely something very subjective, but I like those better.
Oh man, we could nerd out on Pokemon for so long. Yeah, I was thinking it's like one of those legendary like bird Pokemons that in the show they're like, "Oh my God, what is that?" And it's like you see it once in your life type of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, so cool. All right, so Silky. The next category we have here is Silky. This is the Punky palette, which is an awesome palette. And the first two, number 327 and 432 here on the screen, those are, yes, they have the Silky trait. And then the 46 and 22 do not have the Silky trait. And
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I know this one, but would love to hear from you.
Yeah, this one is quite simple. It's basically uh, in some areas of the dragon, you have a lot of hair. To be like a bit furry, and it looks like a bit like a cloth, or something like that, like very textile. I just wanted to have more texture, but with just shapes. So the silky ones are like, yeah, very hairy. Basically, you can grab them and ride them properly. While when you don't have the silky feature, it will be a bit more difficult to grab them because less hair.
Yeah, no, that this makes perfect sense. And while we are on this, there's another thing that I noticed that perhaps you could call out that I don't think is in the metadata. So for the people on screen, number 432 on the right here is it seems like the hairs are thinner in this
Yeah,
dragon than the
yeah.
one on the left. Is that in the metadata somewhere, or how did you think about that either?
No, it's not. It's not a feature, but it's not. It's just something. Like, I have a lot of things in feature, but I don't want to expose them all. Just
Mhm.
want the people to find them, in the collection. But yeah, it is a good example. Like, this one have a lot of very thin hair. Yeah, it's good. It's very good.
Thin and gray, man. That's like my dragon right there.
That's right. You turn 40. You gotta only buy the thin gray dragons. That's the no, I'm just kidding. But yeah, no, actually, towards the end, I showcased all of the palettes that we didn't already show here, looking at the categories. And one of them I purposely picked only the thin ones because I was gonna ask you then, but I thought, I'll just ask you now. But it's I mean, I just want to tell you that I know this was your first long form collection, but you really nailed it with the collectability and knowing your love and Pokemon. It makes sense because these things we love finding them. I mean, I was putting together this gallery. I was like staying up late. I was like, oh, this is so much fun. I'm finding this, or what does this mean? So yeah, it's really really engaging.
Yeah, it's definitely my first collection, and I wanted to create something we can relate to, because anti-cyclone and even the further series are much more about my experience and my emotions. But with Dragon, it was probably something I wanted to put out there and create from nothing, something that you could identify, you could relate to. And yeah, it was really a fun exercise as well, to incorporate all this dynamic of collectibles into one collection.
Yeah, it's really, really like this user experience. If we're talking from a software standpoint, the user experience is excellent. Having this collectability. So the next category I want to talk about is very, very interesting. So it's status, and the vast majority of them have status living, 494. So I didn't put them up on the gallery, but there are three that have a unique status. And we talked about this first one a little bit. It's called turned gold. And so we have number 374 on the left, which is special. I'll come back to that one. Then we have number 311. Oh, sorry, I didn't put 374. Never mind. I'll get to that later. But on the left, we have 311, 175, and then 260. There's only six of these, and they're obviously beautiful. And one thing that's subtle, and the reason I set them up this way is the one on the left, 311, and then the one on the right, 260, they have a temperature unstable, which we'll get to, whereas the one in the middle has the stable temperature. But maybe I'll just talk through all three of these, William, and then you can just discuss how you're thinking about them because they're all so rare and interesting. So there's turned gold, which I just mentioned, and then there's raw, which are these really black and white ones. And so on the left we have 456, and then we have 460 in the middle, and then 355 on the right. And then finally we have equis. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. It's my French is bad.
Esquisse.
Okay, there you go. Thank you. And there's here we have number 41, number 292, number 237. And Akis, there's only four of them. Raw, there's six. And I misspoke. Turn gold, there's seven. So yeah, why did you incorporate these, and maybe what were you trying to express, or which legendary Pokemon? I'm just kidding. You don't have to answer that one, but yeah, I'd love to hear you talk through to the listeners on these traits.
Yeah, basically, esquisse is very, but to translate my how I started this series basically by drawing on a sketchbook some stuff, and I wanted to, and it looks good on my sketchbook, so I wanted to translate it as well into the series, and it really gives this like sketchbook step into the series, because most of the time with a series of an artist you see the sketchbook step like maybe later, maybe never, maybe in exhibition, and you discover on place, oh yeah, those are the sketches of the series. Okay, I get it now. But with this one, I wanted to put the sketches into the series as well. So to say, oh yeah, this is the beginning of of my thinking, basically. And it looked good. So was like, oh yeah, it matches perfectly the series. So let's keep it.
Yeah, no, it looks amazing, and you're talking about the sketchbook. I know you have the graphite type and anti-cyclone, so this is a common thread.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. With the raw aspects, it was much more about, when you're about to be born, you don't know what you are yet. Like you're not defined, basically. You're not defined yet, and you will be about to. So you just know a couple of things like your scales and your length or your shapes, but that's it. You don't have any clue about your environment, your colors, which will be defined by your environment. Um, so yeah, I wanted to really have those l- living steps into the series, like from esquisse, from done gold, and it's basically the life of a dragon. And this is how I imagined it. Like a dragon starts as a sketch and finishes as gold.
Oh, it's beautiful.
And yeah, that the raw part is just after the esquisse step. So yeah, you're about to go, into the world and be prepared. But yeah, you're already beautiful, so you can show yourself already.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I wish I'd known that beforehand. I would have put them in the opposite order on this gallery. But yeah, this is so cool. And one thing, actually, I'll get to it. I'll get to it. There's a gold one that's unique, but I have that later, so we'll show it. Jared, do you want to ask about temperature?
Yeah, and I guess the one parting thought is the raw is one of my favorites for the collection, and it actually is somewhat of a painful. I say that jokingly because Guy and I were going to go in on halves on a raw, and by the time we figured out that we were going to go forward, somebody was quicker to pull the trigger and was actually sniped it up within 15 minutes of it listing. So it's beautiful. It's something that's near and dear to us specifically, but I also just think that with that backstory, it makes it all the more beautiful and and a little bit more painful in a good way. But that being said, for temperature, P put on the DECA gallery utilizing the fruity type, and there's two types of. It's very binary. It's either stable or unstable. I felt as though, and I'm going to take a stab at this, knowing full well I'll probably be somewhere in the wrong, but I'm starting to get a gist of maybe William's intent. But the unstable kind of felt like the temperature could be literally all over the place. Hot is kind of where my brain goes to versus stable. It's a consistent temperature. There seems to be a little bit more, I'll call it solidarity to the actual scales of the dragon. How did I do, William?
Yeah, this one is very subtle. Like how to explain this? The the unstable will be
Would it have anything to do with like maybe the focus on the scales?
it's clear. No, it's clear actually. Okay, it's clear. It's easy to explain. Like the unstable, if you go up a bit, like you'll see that the colors across the dragon is very like there's like a gradient, and basically this means the head is burning and the tail is not. So the temperature is not constant along the dragon. While with stable the color palette is stable. Basically, there is no gradient, and yeah, the color palette is the same across the whole dragon. Um, and the idea behind this was I'm flying, like a star, but at some point I'm going so fast that I can't control my temperature enough, and then I start burning. And when you start burning, a gradient appears like with a meteor. So that's the idea.
Ah, that's super interesting. And in this case, it seems like even though it's the same color palette or the same type, fruity, the unstable ones seem to bring a different color. Is it just that the stable ones are, yeah, maybe it's showing the whole gradient, but the unstable ones are maybe you're only seeing part of it. Maybe you're only seeing the tail or something of the dragon, so you're not seeing the full range.
Yeah, maybe just not seeing the full range, I guess. But yeah, in this example you have on screen, basically I have like a speed thing in my code, and yeah, if you go too fast, you start burning, and it's not necessarily like a bad thing. Just means that you're going to be unstable, and yeah, you can't control your colors enough anymore. Sorry. So yeah, that was the idea. Like it's all about speed and how you fly through space, like a meteorite. Yeah,
Yeah, almost like a tail, right? Like a tail you see in a comet type
yeah,
of thing.
comets. Yeah, perfect, comets.
Yeah, you see that color gradient now that you pointed out.
Can't unsee it. Yeah, no, this is super cool. Like I really enjoy that, and it adds a lot of variety because visually the unstable ones, not just in this palette, but in a lot of palettes, they look a little bit different, or have a different color scheme. And us, we're gonna nerd out on this, William. We're gonna say, okay, how many of the fruity type are have this color versus that, and so this is super exciting for us, and it's about the same. 223 unstable. Oh, I'm sorry, I read that wrong. 113 unstable. So unstable is more rare, and 309 398 that are stable.
Yes, I still wanted to have a lot because I don't consider this a bad thing. Like it, it's okay to be fast, and to fly at high speed. But so that's not something very rare, just something different.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And yeah, 100%. And I'm glad you did that because this is good. It's like it's a little bit rare, but not too rare. So this is a nice sweet spot as well. So William, the last thing I did here is we have all the different types, or sometimes called palettes in other collections.
Yeah.
And I, would love to hear from you. You go first, and then Jared. Like, do you have any favorites of the types? And we can jump around. I highlighted them all here. I mean, we'll go through them all, of course. But are there any that you particularly like more than others? I know they're like your children, so hard to say. But
It's very hard to say, but maybe Vegetably is my preferred one. Royally as well, like that deep blue. Like I love blue, and I really try to make that blue very deep, and especially when like the third one is really like those are my preferred one. When you have a colorful environment, and the blue just is so welcoming. I don't know. It's so good. I don't know. Yeah, Vegetably does the same effect on me when you have a colorful output with the background being green as well. It's really nice. So yeah, I think those two. I I don't know. It's really hard. There's so many I like.
I'll stop putting you on the spot, but yeah. So the vegetably, for those on the screen, I scrolled up to when we were looking at category age. I love the colorful background. I think all of these are also colorful background, not only vegetably but also colorful background. And I'll just go really quick because blue is also my favorite color. I love it, and I really also like the royalies with the blue. The colorful background. So this one on screen, the one that William mentioned was 338 on the right there. And I love that you put Mario Kart in here. I was like, I wish I could play Mario Kart with William someday, but probably I'd be too competitive and it would be,
Yeah, this one is very part of me, I guess, because when, like, little story, when I was making dragons, my child was just born, basically. And it was a very difficult moment for me because I had to make art, have a full-time job, and raise a baby. And while he was sleeping with my partner, we were always playing Mario Kart, and those colors just got printed into my eyes, and sometimes somehow I couldn't see anything else. So yeah, those colors are like part of me, definitely.
yeah, absolutely. And William, just want you to know, we have about 5 minutes until you were saying your time that you have to leave. Just give you the heads up. Yeah, Mario Kart is fantastic. I absolutely love it so much. It's so many great memories. I think people in our generation, we just resonates with us. So I loved Mario Karty. I loved Royally. I really enjoyed Flowery. It was beautiful. This magical
Yeah,
flowery in the
yeah,
middle,
yeah, very good.
128.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was hard for me also because I picked four and then I went through and I was like, oh, I got to go back. Like maybe need to revise this. And then Acidy is, yeah, this is, I mean, the crypto Web3 world, you see acid colors a lot. I think it's a, a little bit of the culture right now, but this one, you really nailed it. You really nailed it. And I want to give Jared a chance to say which ones are his favorite. He had picked a few here, and then we can scroll through the rest. But
Well, I think this is the part of the brilliance of, I think, what William does with palettes in particular is we all have a different perspective and we're all pulling from different angles within the collection. I mean, the I call it a Mar Okarty. It reminds me just of like a funfetti like cupcake or cake, like a birthday, and it's something that I absolutely was drawn to. It's something my wife loved as we were getting together. So it just felt so fun and playful. I love the way the colors just intertwined in a little bit. And then the other one was Groundy, which to me had this beautiful Tiffany blue and these like subtle pops of peach. And actually, a fun fact for William is I actually proposed to my wife in Paris, and then we went to the Tiffany store. So for it's a very much a special place and a special palette for me too.
Congratulations, man.
Thank you. So yeah, it just it's something the way that it all combined together. It was absolutely brilliant to me. Those are kind of two that and the vegetably is just stunning to me. Like I don't know why. Like I'm not very much a green. I'm not pulled to it, but that one almost unanimously is absolutely stunning every single time I look at one. So very well executed.
And I'm sorry for talking over you. I'm just like getting excited because Jared and I also we messaged about Pastelli, which I didn't even see before, and it's so nice. And this one on the right here, which is let me see, let me find the number here. Yeah, so beautiful, like how the green got incorporated into the background there. Well, maybe not the background, but it looks like the one of the most crazy Aurora ones that I've seen, 178. And yeah, sorry, William, I just have to ask you two questions. So this pastelly one on the right of the screen here, 178,
Mhm.
how did so much green come into this? Was this just one of those like special things that happens with the generative art?
Basically, when I was making my palettes, like this is some kind of dynamic, like generative palette as well. Like I have some hard coded palettes, and then I try to figure it out how to find the best other color that goes well with them. And with this, it was like the pink-ish color. So if you turn the color wheel, basically, if you turn the color wheel from pink to the other side, it will be red. And that's basically how I made our environment for those one where there is little scales, but the environment is showing through. What will show through is the opposite color of the dragon. So to have like some kind of contrast. So yeah, it was basically some kind of color study, color theory thing that I wanted to experiment as well. And it turned out great. So I just wanted to put it in. Yeah, that's the story.
Got it. So that seems like another one of those subtle, maybe not in the metadata things that pops up some traits.
Yeah, basically you can find auroras without them being auroras.
Yeah. Ah, even more rare. You're gonna start the treasure hunt, William, for everyone. And one other one I had to ask you about. So this groundy type in the middle here. So this one is number 246. It looks just completely black and white. And I noticed this across not just the groundy type, but other types, other color schemes. Is this another one of those things that just, a few of these are coming out black and white? Because these are not the raw type. And in fact, they're subtle. It's maybe more grayscale, whereas the raw is a little more black and white.
Yeah, sometimes, like at first, it was a bug I had, like the color wasn't assigned to the dragons. And then I thought, because it looks like raw and because yeah, basically I wanted to have those palettes not showing through the dragon to say you're not defined by your color. You can be something else. And then basically you're back to square one and you're back to raw step. Even if you're not a raw uh, dragon type in your metadata, you're there. You're back to square one and you have to find another color. So basically the black and white ones having a color palette are for the people to imagine their own color. When you see them, you can just imagine something else.
Wow. Fantastic. I love that. Now I'm going to have to figure out all the ones which have this because I saw a bunch of these and I was like, wait, what am I missing here? And William, so it's now for 4:30 your time. We're probably about 10-15 minutes left. You're welcome to stay. I know you might have to run as well. Yeah. Would you like to stay or should we just say goodbye now and then Jared and we just have a couple of fun
Yeah, I
things
guess
at the end?
I can push 5 minutes, I guess.
5 minutes. Okay. Okay, 5 minutes. Then let's in the last 5 minutes, for folks, there's a few other palettes we have here, but let's jump down. Do you have any three that are perhaps you can pick as your favorites? And I didn't put it here yet because we didn't have a chance to connect about it, but I'll go first so you can see what I mean, and I'll go super quickly. So the top three that I picked from my collection on the left here is number 374. This is There's only seven that are turned gold. This is the only one that was turned gold and age young. And it's really a one of one from that standpoint. It's beautiful. And so, the other age golds are all age 16. Sorry, turned golds are all age 16.
Yeah.
So that's why I picked this. This middle one is number 55, which is my grail. This is the Aurora that I picked up. I think it's beautiful. I love
Yeah.
the blue, but the orange blue combination is just fascinating. And then the one on the right here, it's number 485. This is an earthy type, I believe, but it has the colorful background and it just looks so different and cool. This one almost looks like you can see the eye of the dragon here on the left, which I
Yeah.
thought was special. But perhaps are there any three that you can pick, or if it's too much on the spot, we don't have to do it. But
Yeah, I can't name any. It's really hard. Like my preferred one is the one like being like the cover of the series. This one had maybe when I was minting the project, the series, uh, I maybe spent like an hour minting it. Like spent an hour, finding the good cover. So I think that shows how crazy I am, maybe. But yeah, this one is my preferred one. Like yeah, because this is the one that represents the whole series. Like it has some silky, it has some unstable temperature, and it's a bit aged. So yeah, the cover is the perfect one for me.
perfect. Okay, so we got the one, not just the top three, but the top one. And
Yeah, but you can't have it because it's not in the mint.
that's okay. Maybe one day in the future, this will be released as a one of one.
Maybe.
That would be fantastic. Yeah, and Jared, maybe you want to talk through your top three, and then we can let William go, because
Yeah,
my internet is unfortunately too slow to see how William would spend 30,000 Tezos right now on dragons. Although I want to hear it so badly, but next time.
yeah. The top three that I chose, the first one was number 444. We talked about it earlier. It's the vegetably palette or type. I like it because it's of the very young trait. So you get this just beautiful flow of
Yeah.
the colors. It just the way the colors intertwine on this thing is just something magical. And I just maybe subconsciously thought this, but hearing William talk about it, I could definitely see multiple dragons in this piece and almost racing about
Yeah.
over a deep green sea. I don't know. It's just something about it. It felt very like to me it embodied the essence of a dragon, and it just is beautiful the way it came together. My next one was 178. We kind of touched on it previously. It's that one that has it quite frankly, it reminded me of a peacock, which was just the way all of the colors came together. It had this like beautiful pops of green and almost like that Tiffany blue, but also the way and it has like this dominance about it, but the way the pinks popped in the overall palette was just I felt very beautiful. It was rare. I had rare in the sense that like I hadn't seen anything like it in the collection. I've scrolled through the collection a number of times, and it always kept speaking to me. And the last one I chose, I shared the story earlier, so a little bit premature, but is 216. It's one of the 6 raws. I just think it's absolutely of the raws. Not that there's many of them. There's only 6 to choose from. I just felt that it was beautiful in the way, in some weird way too, how like all of the dragon scales were very calculated, and then like right in the middle of it were these like 2 long scales that had at least for me, a very dominant
Yeah.
look about it, and
It's pretty good.
I felt it was just very beautiful the way the composition came together. Obviously with the spawning in the background. So I don't know. Those were my 3 that stood out in the collection. But that being said, I'm getting FOMO that I don't have any personally, and even further, I'm not allowed to buy any because I just launched a fund. So that being said, the fund will probably be buying. I shouldn't say probably. They will be buying. We will be buying a ton. But absolutely, I'll be way more strategic after this conversation, based solely on your input, and I have a deeper appreciation for the collection. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Lovely picks.
Thank you. And I'm just going to stop the screen share so we can say bye-bye. So yeah, thank you so much, William. We really, really appreciate your time and staying a couple minutes extra. I think the fans are going to absolutely love this. So, you bought yourself another week or 2 of not responding to DMs coming on here. No, I'm just joking, of course. But seriously, thank you. And thank you to your family for giving us this time, taking you away from them as well.
Thank you. Yeah, my girlfriend texted me like, "Where are you?" Like, "Yeah, I'm finishing a goal." And like,
You're like, these 2 won't
I
stop
need
talking.
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
know.
it was really great, guys, to talk about this, because I think I never had the occasion to talk about all of all of it on screen. So thank you for the question. That they are good, and it allows me as well to to dive back into the collection, which is like
Yeah,
almost 1 year ago. When yeah, 1 year old. So that's good. Thank you.
yeah, Pete. We should release it on the 1 year anniversary. That'd be pretty dope. Kind of like a hat nod to
Yeah,
dragons.
that's actually perfect. December 7th. All right. We'll plan for that. All right. Yeah. And yes, thank you. Tell your girlfriend thank you, and maybe show her the video, then maybe she say, okay, fine. It's okay. You were late this time.
Yeah.
You don't care.
Thank you,
She's got a
guys.
little one at home, man. I know what it's like. Don't worry. Run off, my man. We appreciate your time. Thank you. You're
Yeah.
doing wonderful work.
Thank you,
Yes,
guys.
thank you. We
See
really
you
appreciate
later.
you. See you later. Bye-bye.
Bye.
And yeah, for everyone else listening, William has hopped off, but we having internet issues today. So doing our what would we buy with 30,000 Tezos is just a little bit more challenging for me at the moment. But so we'll skip that one this time, and just say thank you everybody for tuning in. We hope you really enjoyed this. Jared, where can folks find you, and where can they find out more about 8NAP, your fund that you've launched?
The fund has officially launched as of November 1st. We're doing quarterly onboarding, so if you do have an interest, please reach out to me. My DMs are open. The next onboarding will be January 1st, 2023. Obviously, some stuff has to be in place before then. Twitter is Jared_POZ, pause. And on Discord, it is J_pause, POZ.
Perfect. So I am P. Again, I'm at AstonCloud online. We are at collectors_XYZ. We really appreciate you tuning in. If you found this valuable and you enjoyed it, please subscribe. We're on YouTube. We're on all the podcasting platforms, Apple, Spotify. Please like and comment and follow us on Twitter. That's where we give all the updates. So until next time, thank you everybody again for tuning in, and we will see you soon, very soon. Thank you for tuning into Collector's Corner. We really appreciate you taking the time to listen. If you like this episode and want to help us out, please subscribe and leave us a review on your podcasting platform of choice, like Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and follow us on YouTube. Please also follow us on Twitter for announcements as we expand to other social and content platforms. Our Twitter handle is at collectors_XYZ. We'd also love to hear any feedback you have, so please comment or reach out. We're always striving to be more useful and get better so we can help you in your collecting journey. The Collectors Corner team and their guests are not registered investment advisors. All views expressed on this podcast are personal opinions and are not specific inducements to make particular investments or investment strategies, and should not be relied upon for investment decisions. This show is solely for informational and entertainment purposes only. Before making any financial decisions, please consult a professional.